one of the most harmful things you can have on your side in any issue is people who believe that things cannot be changed. In fact, it's a political tactic in order to try to convince the opposition that things cannot be changed. I mean, think about it this way. If you have a group of people in a country and 60% don't want to vote, then you only have to persuade and convince 40% that your side is correct. And it's a lot easier to do than convincing 100%, right? So the reason I'm saying this is because obviously things can change. And talking about issues and raising awareness, like the left likes to say, is actually effective. It's very easy to know why it's effective, because in the case of Nigel Farage, the bank initially gave him a bullshit reason. Why would they do that if they would think that they're in the right and backlash doesn't matter? They would just say, no, we disagree with your things, fuck off, bigot. But instead, they actually said, no, we're closing your account because you're under a minimal threshold and we don't like that. But in reality, that wasn't the case. In reality, after he did some digging, it turns out that he was against the bank's inclusivity policies. Yes, apparently they didn't like Brexit because it was an economic problem. They like diversity, which apparently doesn't cause economic problems. I mean, you can just get more and more people in and the pricing for housing remains the same. There's no strain on the welfare system. It's good for business. Probably if you're a bank, right? But if you happen to live in a town, then it's called, what is the opposite of gentrification? There should be a word for it. But anyway, right, so they don't like Nigel Farage, despite the fact that more than half of the country voted for him. I mean, who cares about democracy when you're running a fascist organization? It's literally the definition of fascism. It's the merger of government and private interests for the betterment of the nation. So you get to use the government power against political dissidents, and if you can't use government power, then you use corporate power. This is what Benito Mussolini would have wanted. Like, if you like the system, why did you fight him off? Like, if you think it's a good system. I personally think it's a horrible system. And most people in Britain agree with me, which is why apparently the boss of the bank in question has apologized to Nigel Farage. And if you don't follow the news, he managed to find a thick dossier they had on him, which is pretty much what the Soviet Union used to have on political dissidents, which is, I guess, like a collection of accusations of things that he did wrong, including supporting Brexit, being a bigot, and all the other stuff. So they apologized for that, for stalking him on social media. Like if I do to a woman what this bag did to Nigel Farage, it's a criminal offense. Not kidding. Like, if you actually start following a woman the same way this bag followed Nigel Farage, like, she can press charges. Don't do it. So apparently they apologize for this, and this is after the government is trying to crack down on banks. Now, don't get too excited. That they're not going to crack down by forbidding banks to close the account of a person that they view that their reputation can damage the bank. They're not going to do that. Instead, they're going to force the banks to become transparent, which is a start. But I do believe that if you want, like, central bank digital currency, if you want places where you can't pay with cash, only credit card, if you have laws that you can't pay for more than a certain amount unless you do an online transaction, I do think banks should be considered as utilities. Like, I'm sorry, but like, if the government forces you to go through the banking system in order to make certain payments, like they forced me in my country, any payment more than 1,000 euros has to go through a bank. So if you want to buy a car, if you want to buy an expensive television set, if you want to buy a refrigerator that's more expensive, or a washing machine, you can't do that with cash. Like, literally, it's illegal to do it with cash. You have to go through a bank. Now, normally, the banks allow you to make an account. But what happens when all the banks decide that you're not allowed to make an account? What happens then? How can you do business? Like, even if you have cash, like, okay, I have cash, but like, I can't use it. In London, I said this in a previous video, I was mind-fucked when I realized I can't get into the London Zoo unless I pay with credit card. There was a place that was selling muffins in the sub. They call it the Tube. I couldn't buy any of the muffins unless I use credit card. I couldn't get into the London Dungeon. I couldn't get into the London Eye. Like, it's usually like the tourist attractions, which I believe are operated by the City Hall. I'm not sure, but I think it may be the case, right? You need a credit card in order to... So, if that's the case, then the government should assure that at least one bank allows people to have an account there. Because otherwise, you literally can't live in the country if you're middle or upper class. Or probably even lower class. Like, normally in a third world economy, this wouldn't matter. But when we're talking about Great Britain, yeah. Especially in London, like, you need to have a bank account. And if the banks can just deplatform politicians, like, fuck democracy at that point. Like, why do you even need it? Because if I vote for a guy who then can't even raise money or do anything because the banks shut down his accounts, well, what's the point of democracy? Let me vote for the bankers then. Because they have far more influence than the politicians. It's very concerning, isn't it? And apparently the British public, even like the conservatives which are in power, who probably disagree with Nigel Farage, did do the right thing, talked about the issue, and are now pressuring the banks in order to stop this shit. At least to a certain degree. And, you know, good thing, because they probably know that come next elections, Labour is going to be in power, and the banks can use this against them. Apparently the lady from the bank, the manager, like, is really excited that people who are, I guess, are of questionable reputation will have their file come on her desk. And she's a Remainer and is supporting the environment because, yes, you know, it's up to the rich folk who have yachts and private jets or work for people that have yachts and private jets to lecture us about the environment. And from a building that has air conditioning, because I'm pretty sure her bank does have that. Yeah. This is big clown world, isn't it? Right. You're the one, you're the bigot that has to cut down on your emissions while the rich folks still get to enjoy their luxurious lifestyles. I guess in a way this is normal with religions, isn't it? I mean, the Pope was surrounded by wealth and was lecturing you about giving and donating to the poor. Because otherwise your soul doesn't go to heaven, right? But it's kind of like that, but like a little bit different. Jesus. I mean, it's the very fact that they used private jets to go to the COP20 meeting and they don't want to use Skype. Sorry, not Skype. Discord or Zoom or whatever. They don't want to use that. They want to go there in person, and they're bringing, you know, their yachts and their private jets and all of that in order to lecture the little guy about how they need to save the planet. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.